So, Dr. Shea, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. So, what is a highlight of the mentorship that you have been able to provide the Conscious Kitchen team?
So, a lot of people think that mentorship kind of goes one way. So, the mentors help out the mentees. But once you start mentoring, you'll realize that it goes both ways. And I think that that is one of the things that I get out of this most, is that, I'm sharing knowledge, I'm sharing experiences, but what I'm getting back are these innovative ideas and the way that, you look at these problems from a totally different perspective. And this is especially important because when you've been working in the same field for as long as I have, sometimes, I don't know, your mind gets in a rut. And I'm not saying that I don't tackle challenges with the creative perspective, but sometimes I've just looked at something from such a close angle that it's hard to step back and take a totally different perspective from what I'm used to looking at. So that's one of the things that I get from mentoring, is looking at the problems that I work on daily from a totally different perspective. It also gives me a lot of energy and inspiration to see all of the amazing work that you guys are doing. Especially on days when I'm just tired, I'm just ready to, sit on the couch and relax, hearing about the projects that you're doing, the initiatives that you're taking, the independence and leadership that you have already, it gives me energy. It's like drinking a big cup of coffee.
That's incredible. I love to hear that. Thank you.
So, one question I had for you, like I said, I get all of this energy and inspiration from mentoring. What about from your perspective? So how does being mentored empower you?
Well, I think in this relationship specifically, one thing that is super empowering is seeing a bit of myself in you, seeing a woman in STEM who is so accomplished, and to see the work that you're doing is so incredible, and, not the status quo in science and research at all. And, we've discussed previously the feeling of imposter syndrome, and it's certainly real, and seeing you in that position definitely helps overcome that and makes me feel empowered to strive to get to the position that you're in, or at that level of achievement that you are, because seeing you do it makes me feel like I can do it. And so that's been really, really empowering and motivating in the work that I'm doing, and really broadens my perspectives and makes me want to do better and strive more as well, seeing you do that.
That is so huge, especially because when I was young, I didn't really, I'm second generation Latina, I didn't really see anyone in leadership positions, especially, that looked like me, that came from a community like mine, and so I didn't even realize that science was an option for me until I was in my mid-20s. And, like everyone who I saw who was a scientist was basically a white man in a lab coat. So it wasn't until I was older and was able to see people who made me realize, I'm trying to describe it. It's almost like it never entered my brain. It's not that I saw it and wanted it and thought that I couldn't do it. It's that it was never a possibility, so I never even thought about it until I was a lot older. And I certainly didn't think that I could ever have an impact until I was in my late 20s. So the things that you guys are doing here, that you're doing at Conscious Kitchen, making comments to federal agencies, making the projects that you're doing on such an incredible level, that's something that I never realized that I could do. So I'm glad that you're able to see yourself in me, because that's one of my main goals of being a mentor.
And like, how can you not feel so inspired and motivated after hearing your journey in this? So it's really incredible. So I'm very, very appreciative. Thank you. And so in the context of Conscious Kitchen and beyond, what do you see as the role in science in advocacy?
Yeah, so science has this ability to kind of take all of the information that's out there and tell us what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to advocacy, it's really important to, first of all, express your feelings, what you know to be true in your heart, but also to provide science to back it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if somebody disagrees with your perspective, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But science actually gives you the bare facts. It takes this empirical evidence and lays out what's really happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really strong tool, because you can disagree philosophically about issues, but when it comes to science, science is the way it is.
Right.
So using those tools can be really strong when you're talking with people about your advocacy work. Another thing that it does is it's able to take the perspectives of people from around the world and take them together to help people understand not just what they're thinking, but what the whole, a whole society is thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it also helps to provide scientific evidence specifically from peer-reviewed studies. So these are studies that have been published in scientific journals because they are reviewed by unbiased scientists who haven't been working, on that particular project. And so when people look at those, it helps them know that this is truly a scientific fact rather than an opinion. And these days you're just inundated with information from all sides. So it's nice to at least have science as a place you can go to really trust the facts.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So when you're looking for mentors, what do you look for in a mentor? What kind of characteristics make a good mentor?
Mm-hmm. So I, honestly, before working with you, I did not know, really, because at least in the professional setting, I've had plenty of academic mentors, but in the professional setting, I really didn't know because I didn't have that experience, and I was always very nervous, right? Especially, when I first got to Berkeley, and it was remote, it can be really intimidating to try to find mentorship. But you, after, talking to you, just first meeting you, your approachability and your obvious support for the work that we're doing is so encouraging, and so, it makes it much more accessible, I think, and having that is really priceless, because I feel like as college students, we feel enough pressure on a daily basis. So reaching out to someone of such higher position than us can be a bit intimidating. And you're so open and so willing to hear us, and you're so supportive as well, which I think is something that has been really helpful. In the research that we've done for the campaign that we're doing on organic cereal, to hear that you're impressed with the research that our team is doing is huge. That is something that I think is very easy for people in your position to overlook, the little things to keep the students going and to keep the people that you're mentoring motivated, and also in guiding us, pointing us in the right direction, but not, still giving us the freedom to take it and do what we want with it, but giving us that direction. That really helps us grow without getting too overwhelmed and drowned in what we're doing. So that has been also really helpful, and certainly something that I'll look for in more mentors in the future.
And you know what? This is a really important lesson to learn, and it took me way too long to learn this. But you would be surprised at how many people, if you reach out to them, are willing to help you. And so, gosh, it wasn't until I was way older than most people in this room where I realized I could just cold call or cold email people and have them respond to me. And it was this, like, it was a revelation for me. And so that's something to keep in mind. If you come across someone whose work you're really impressed by, reach out to them. Put details in the email. So be like, this is what I specifically like. And I would bet you 9 times out of 10, somebody who reads an email from a student who is not only aware of their work, but is interested enough to reach out and empowered enough to reach out, you'll probably get a response. And if you don't, do not be deterred. Because I used to think, this is especially true when I was going into graduate school. I'd email professors and ask them about their work, and I wouldn't get responses back, and I'd think, oh, they don't like me, they don't have, they don't think I'm important, they don't want to talk to me, but they're just busy. So if you don't hear from them at first, just send them a reminder email and be like, hey, just putting this back at the top of your inbox. Right. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because it's this lesson that is hard to learn, because at least for me, when I was younger, my perspective was that all of these people in these positions that I admired were completely unapproachable. Some are, but most aren't, and most are more than willing to talk to you and give you advice. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Well, and that brings me to ask you why you prioritize setting so much time aside to be a mentor, and you offer so much help to our team. And so, why do you do that?
Well, I mentioned that I get a lot of it. So I'm definitely getting new perspectives, new thoughts, new ideas. But really, the reason that I started mentoring is because I didn't have a mentor until much later in my life. So, like I said, I didn't really have anyone who looked like me, who came from a culture like mine, who I viewed as a mentor until I was in college. And so when I was in college, my family's from Argentina. So I went down to spend a couple months with my family down there, and I have these amazing great aunts who just kick butt. One of them went and got her PhD in chemistry when, in the 40s, when, first of all, women were not getting PhDs in science, PhDs at all, let alone in sciences, let alone she's Jewish, so this is very anti-Semitic society. This just has done these amazing things, and talking with her and hearing that she was still learning, into her 70s, into her 80s, even into her 90s, was so inspiring to me, that having that mentorship and being able to see someone who was still doing amazing things despite overcoming such challenges really inspired me to start thinking about science. So if I can give people that kind of perspective at a younger age than I was, when I finally spent some quality time with her and really learned about her past, that is my goal. Because you guys have so many opportunities right now, and you do not have to wait to make a difference. And I know you guys probably already know this. You're making differences right now, but the earlier that you find that empowerment, the more you'll be on this pathway to changing the world.
Yeah, it's incredible to think, you say that you got started later because you didn't have that mentor in your life, and to see what you've been able to accomplish, to think about who you can inspire at such a younger age and how much more they can accomplish, like a big snowball effect. It's so exciting to think about.
And hearing about the things that you're doing as an intern for Conscious Kitchen is, they're just incredible. So what are some of the things that you've taken away from that experience?
Right, so much. So I think this kind of goes into 2 parts. So there's kind of a personal passion, motivation side of it that has really grown, especially in my communication with you and other partners. I've conducted various interviews with a lot of you, and hearing the way that people in this line of work talk about the work they're doing. I study environmental science, so I've been vaguely aware of the importance of organic agriculture, but it wasn't until I came to this organization that I realized how important it is for the environment, for ecosystems, for people, and social justice, not just environmental justice. It is overarching, the reach that the work that we're doing has. So really understanding how profound this world has been really, really fulfilling and very motivating, and something that has really pointed me in the right direction of, I'm a senior, what do I want to do post-grad? And that has really helped. I'm really passionate about this work, and that kind of education has been incredible. And then from a professional development side, this is my first internship ever, and I have written public comments to state agencies demanding protection over our health and the environment. We are working on a petition campaign for capacity building and support in this movement to get protection from these harmful chemicals that are in our food systems that we are not, made aware of. We are, making a graphic of a specific company's cereal product to, give consumers a peek at what transparency looks like if these companies were held accountable and were actually transparent about what they're putting in our bodies. And this has only been a couple months' work. So getting the ability to have that professional development, to build those skills. One of the previous speakers mentioned someone with a vision but no action is just hallucinating, and Conscious Kitchen and Judy has really been the ones to put it in action. I'm much more of a planner, and Judy's a doer, so that's put me a little bit outside of my comfort zone in the best way possible, so that's been really, really incredible.
I'll also say that looking back on my trajectory, those professional development opportunities that you're getting right now with Conscious Kitchen, with Turning Green, are so important for when you do start applying for jobs. So I didn't start volunteering, mentoring with organizations. Like I said, I didn't realize that I could have an impact until I was in my late 20s. I was in graduate school. And so I started doing a lot of work, kind of like what you're doing now. And I did it for a couple of years until I graduated. And just those experiences, and this is true of the things that everyone in this room is doing with Turning Green, the things that you're doing right now are going to help you get jobs. Because when I applied for jobs, I had all of this experience, all of these things that I'd done that my colleagues did not have. And so when I applied for jobs, I was very competitive for jobs that were at a lot higher of a level than a lot of my colleagues. So all of the things that you guys are doing now with Turning Green, all of these, CAP projects that you're doing, you can put those on resumes. You can talk about those when you do decide to apply for jobs. So, this program it's not just changing society now, it's also setting you up for, professional careers that are going to continue to amplify that.
So with that and, the finalists' CAP projects, how do you think that our finalists can use science in their CAP projects to further their goals?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that is so important is really working within communities. And this is something that will continue to be important at all levels, all directions that you go. And I'll give you an example. So, and this is also an example of how Conscious Kitchen has inspired me. So, My daughter started going to public school this year. She's in kindergarten, first kid to go into the public school system. And of course, being involved in food, I immediately looked up the menu of the public cafeteria, and I called Judy in a panic. I was like, Judy, do you know what they are serving my kids?
Right.
And what she said to me was, she said, yeah, I knew that when your kids started entering the public school system, I would have a captive audience. And it is so true, because the food's atrocious.
Yeah.
And so we've been working really hard to try and motivate parents to communicate with the school board about what's going on, which is all fine and good. But it wasn't until we started integrating with the community and really mobilizing them that we could even understand what the impacts were and how they resonated beyond our individual children, let alone impact the school board. And we still have a long way to go. But for example, we were out yesterday talking with schools in our district that are severely impoverished. And, last week I was up in front of the board saying, giving them all this science. But then I went out to the communities who really rely on these free and reduced meal programs. Well, it's all free now because of the universal meals. But hearing their stories really made me understand about what the impacts truly were. What they were telling us, what these students were telling us, was that the food was so bad they don't even eat it. They go hungry all day because the food's too bad to eat. And so being able to mobilize within your community is going to be able to help you achieve goals throughout your life. And that's just one example. But the things that you're doing now are really setting you up to have the tools to be able to do that on any level that you want to work on. So whether you're working on a local level at your school, in your city, or if you want to work on the federal level, the skills that you're developing now, you're going to be able to use for the rest of your lives.
Absolutely. And the options are endless. There's so much work to be done that, whichever way you want to go, there will always be, environmental, social justice work to be done. So plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, and all this talk about professional development has kind of made me think of a question. I'm going off script now. But how have your thoughts about what you want to do in the future, your career, evolved or changed through your time at the Conscious Kitchen?
Great question. Still figuring it out. It has really changed my opinions and, my outlook on life a lot. When I first came to Berkeley and first, started pursuing this degree, I was very, policy only, private sector, corporate route only. I want to go take Lisa Jackson's job at Apple headquarters. And not that I wouldn't, accept the opportunity to take such a position ever. Doing this local level work has been really fulfilling, and to see the importance of it, especially, the intersections of environmental and social justice and how that is so intrinsically related to food and how important that is, has really got me, rethinking about how I can make more of an impact, whether that is at the local level or at the state or federal level. It really gets me thinking about what the best way to do that is. I'll let you know when I figure it out. But I think Conscious Kitchen has definitely, and Turning Green, has opened me to so many resources to help me figure that out as well. And, I feel confident that throughout the next, however long I continue interning with them, and post-grad, that I don't have any doubts that I will be able to make the impact that I want to make. And I think, it's still important to do that at all levels as well. So any way that we do it, I think will be beneficial. But yeah, it's definitely changed my perspective of what I want to do a lot. I think it's grounded me a lot as well. and my values too.
And keeping that open perspective will take you so far, because if you're open to the experiences that you're involved with, if you keep those senses and sense of opportunity open, your thoughts about your career will continue to evolve, even when you're in the professional world. So even today, I love my job, but I'm always thinking about what else can I do to achieve these goals, especially because everything I learn changes those goals. It's always evolving. And so whether it turns from one, you'll get one job, and whether you're like, oh, I think that this is a fantastic job, but what I really want to do is a totally different direction. Or if you're in a job and you're like, I love this job, but I also want to volunteer for this organization doing X, Y, or Z, those kind of ideas are going to follow you and really keep you happy and engaged and interested in life throughout your career. So it's really great that you're so open already to the different pathways that are available for you. And I'd say keep that, even when you do get a job, no matter how perfect it is, just keep thinking about it. Keep being open.
Thank you.